Water on a floor turns an ordinary corridor into a skating rink. That simple fact is why every professional cleaning routine begins, not with the mop or the bucket, but with the bright yellow warning sign. Imagine you enter a shopping center at opening time. The floor-to-ceiling windows are still misted from the cool night air, and the entrance tiles are damp where customers' shoes track in moisture. So the rhythm repeats. Sign first, clean second, dry third, remove last, position for visibility, maintain the board, keep access swift, rely on sufficient lighting, log every deployment. Follow that rhythm and your wet floor signs stop being mere compliance items and become active guardians of safety, standing silent watch over every corridor, lobby and washroom until the floors beneath are once again safe to stride across without a second thought. Before the first cloth touches the ground, the cleaner swings out a folded sign and snaps it into position, embossed slip icon facing the oncoming traffic. In that moment, everyone who steps through the doors receives a clear, universal message. Be careful, the surface ahead could make you fall. The sign's purpose is never ornamental, never decorative. It is a direct hazard warning designed to cut the chance of injury to the absolute minimum. Timing is everything. The sign must appear before you start wiping up the coffee spill, before the mop glides over the vinyl, before the hose sprays the alfresco tiles. Hazard lights on a car go on before you step out to check the tire. The wet floor sign follows exactly the same logic. Deploying it in advance buys precious reaction time for passers-by who may be hurrying, texting, or pushing a trolley and haven't noticed the sheen of soapy water. If you wait until mid-mop, you force them to react when they are already entering the danger zone. And that fraction of a second can mean the difference between safe footing and a painful tumble. Once the sign is open, placement demands thought. Set it just beyond the perimeter of the wet patch so that approaching feet encounter the warning before the slick. Angle the board so pedestrians see the caution symbol head-on, never edge-on. In a cramped hallway, that may mean positioning it slightly off-center so both directions of traffic notice it without needing to swerve sharply. Picture a narrow corridor stretching 15 meters. One sign at the doorway is not enough. Visibility drops as walkers progress. Best practice is to repeat the warning every few meters down the line so no one can claim ignorance. If the space bends or features alcoves, curve the signs around the corner so they remain in a direct sightline. Think of each board as a beacon. People should glimpse the next one as soon as they pass the last. Color choice is deliberate. International safety guidelines favor yellow because the human eye detects that hue faster than almost any other under normal indoor lighting. Paired with black lettering or the classic falling stick figure, the contrast screams caution even if the observer cannot read English. That pictogram matters in public venues where dozens of languages may be spoken on a busy morning. A single silhouette of a person slipping backward tells the whole story at a glance. Speed of access is another pillar of effective warning. Signs need storing right where spills happen. Inside the cleaners, closet that opens onto the food court, beside the janitorial trolley shifted along office corridors, at the back of house area of the supermarket where refrigeration units sometimes leak. The logic is obvious, every extra step to fetch a sign delays hazard control. Rainy days at building entrances are notorious for puddles forming in seconds as umbrellas drip and shoes stomp. Non-slip entrance mats help, but a sign positioned right beside the threshold doubles the defense. The moment you notice water pooling, you can whip out the board and prop it up without leaving the doorway unguarded. Removal is just as important as deployment. Leave the sign in place only as long as the surface needs to lose its moisture. Once every trace of damp is gone and the hazard is truly over, take the sign away. If boards linger on bone-dry tiles for half a day, staff, tenants, and visitors begin to view the warning as background furniture. The next time you genuinely need their attention, their eyes may glide past the board with barely a flicker of recognition. That complacency defeats the entire purpose of the system. Conversely, never be tempted to reclaim the sign early because it looks untidy or obstructive. A small visual interruption is nothing compared with a fractured wrist or a compensation claim. Signs themselves can become liabilities when damaged. They lead hard lives, kicked by boots, squashed by trolleys, scraped by pallet jacks. Hinges crack, bases splay unevenly, panels fade under ultraviolet light. A warped base tips over with the slightest air conditioning draft or the backwash from an automatic door. The instant you notice any instability, fading, or crack, remove the sign for repair or replacement. A wobbly board that tumbles sideways creates its own trip hazard, ironically adding risk where you tried to remove it. Routine maintenance walkthroughs should include a quick check of every sign in storage. Hinges open smoothly, text and symbols remain high contrast, and frames lock firmly so the board cannot collapse. Frontline responsibility for these checks falls on cleaners and maintenance staff. They are the people on site every day, eyes scanning floors for spills, condensation, or stray ice cubes. During routine hazard inspections, usually a brisk circuit of high traffic zones at set times, staff should deploy signs the instant they spot moisture, even if the puddle looks awkwardly small. One rogue drip near a water cooler can fool a rushing office worker and send them sliding. Timely deployment means seeing that drip and acting now, not after finishing a rubbish round, not after a phone call to a supervisor, but immediately. Lighting often decides whether a passerby registers the flash of yellow in time. Corridors and washrooms must be evenly lit. A blown fluorescent tube above a glossy tile makes reflections tricky to read, and the bright board loses its edge in a murky patch. During your rounds, if you notice a dim corner, log a maintenance request. A perfectly placed sign is pointless if no one can see it until the last second. Even the best precautions cannot eliminate every accident. Should someone slip despite the sign's presence, secure the area first, prevent secondary falls, then record the incident. Note exactly where the sign stood, whether it remained upright or had been nudged aside, and how wet the surface was. A short, factual incident report helps safety officers review the setup. Sometimes the investigation reveals that a longer drying period is needed, or that an extra sign closer to an intersecting walkway would give earlier notice. Overuse of signs brings its own problems. Covering an entire dry lobby with cones because they happen to be on the trolley blunts their impact. Too many warnings where no danger exists trains people to ignore the yellow rectangles altogether. Discipline yourself to deploy only when moisture truly threatens safety and to remove as soon as floors are dry. A simple usage log, whether paper or digital, keeps track of each sign's movements, where it was placed when it came back, any repairs performed. Patterns emerge. Perhaps a staff cafeteria entrance sees constant daily deployments, suggesting the floor surface or matting needs redesign. Maybe one particular sign suffers frequent hinge failures because forklift traffic clips it. Data replaces guesswork and supports measured improvements. Picture a typical day on shift, early morning before footfall peaks. You collect your cart and roll it toward the central atrium. At the doorway, you notice yesterday's rain has left streaks across the polished concrete. Before anything else, your hand closes over the folded sign strapped to the cart's side. You pop it open, set it right at the threshold, frontal plane facing oncomers, and walk back to fetch the microfiber mop. 5 minutes later, water is lifted and the concrete glints but is still damp. You leave the sign exactly where it is and start a second area. 10 minutes after that, a fingertip check confirms the surface is bone dry. You fold the sign, stow it, and move on. Mid-afternoon, you spot a shimmering trail near the refrigerated display in the supermarket section, condensation drip. Again, the sign comes out first. As customers weave their trolleys around, they see the black silhouette slipping inside the yellow triangle and steer clear. You wipe, you dry, you wait, you remove. Each action is small, almost automatic, yet together they form a chain that prevents injuries all day long. Now imagine a sign that has seen better days. Lettering scuffed, hinge half split. A light gust from the aircon vent topples it. A passerby catches the corner of the fallen board with their boot and stumbles. Even though the floor is dry, the broken sign itself causes the trip. That scenario underscores why regular inspection and swift replacement are non-negotiable. A compromised warning tool is worse than none at all, because staff believe the area is protected when in fact a new hazard has been introduced. Finally, consider the multilingual workforce and public you serve. Not everyone reads English, but everyone recognizes movement and color. The high contrast pictogram of a person losing balance transcends language. That single image shouts the message louder than paragraphs of text could. Combined with the unmistakable canary yellow background, It gives visitors from any country the split-second comprehension they need to slow down and walk carefully.